VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And thank you for joining us today here on Crosstalk. Well, due to the fact that we have a guest coming in studio tomorrow, we're going to have a news roundup today, and certainly there's been a lot taking place in the news that we want to bring to your attention. No doubt a lot of you have reaction yet to the debate that happened just a night or so ago, and want to share in with some of your thoughts on that. But the campaign does pursue in great heat at this point. By the way, a federal appeals court in Manhattan has now become the second in the nation to strike down the Defense of Marriage Act as unconstitutional. Fox News is reporting that the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals issued its ruling today. The decision upholds a low court judge who ruled that the 1996 law that defines marriage as involving a man and a woman is unconstitutional. The three-judge panel said the law violates equal protection. A federal appeals court in Boston earlier this year also found the law unconstitutional. And no doubt this is going to be making its way in the not-too-distant future to the United States Supreme Court. Well, former President Bill Clinton, who was held in contempt of court by a federal judge for giving false testimony, told an audience at an Obama campaign rally today, he said what the American people have got to decide is whether they believe people like me. Let's listen in.
Governor Romney's argument is, we're not fixed, so fire him and put me in. It is true, we're not fixed. When President Obama looked into the eyes of that man who said in the debate, I had so much hope 4 years ago, and I don't now, I thought he was going to cry, because he knows that it's not fixed. The question is, which path will fix it? And what the American people have got to decide is whether they believe people like me, who are a little bit on the outside of this, that this was the biggest economic crash since the Great Depression. It continued for a full year after the president took the oath of office. We were going downhill. He had to stop that, put a floor under it, and begin the long road back.
Bill Clinton this morning speaking in Ohio, saying that what the American people have got to decide is whether they believe people like me. Well, the debate the other night, an estimated 65.6 million viewers to this debate, a little less attendance for this debate than the last one, which boasted 67 million people watching. Final debate taking place this coming Monday night. But President Barack Obama made no secret of his allegiance to the nation's largest abortion provider at that presidential debate, making no fewer than 5 references to Planned Parenthood in the first hour of the debate and claiming falsely that the group provides mammograms. He also once again implied federal funding for Planned Parenthood is pivotal, that is, to his young daughter's future. Let's just listen into that statement here about Planned Parenthood that was made by the president and mammograms.
In my health care bill, I said insurance companies need to provide contraceptive coverage to everybody who's insured, because this is not just a health issue, it's an economic issue for women. It makes a difference. This is money out of that family's pocket. Governor Romney not only opposed it, he suggested that, in fact, employers should be able to make the decision as to whether or not a woman gets contraception through her insurance coverage. That's not the kind of advocacy that women need. When Governor Romney says that we should eliminate funding for Planned Parenthood, there are millions of women all across the country who rely on Planned Parenthood for not just contraceptive care, they rely on it for mammograms, for cervical cancer screenings. That's a pocketbook issue for women and families all across the country.
That was the president speaking during the debate. Now, the Food and Drug Administration says no Planned Parenthood facility in the United States is licensed to do mammograms. The FDA licenses the centers to own and operate the mammogram centers to operate mammogram machines. If a facility owns or operates a mammogram machine without a government license, it could result in a $10,000 fine, according to Live Action, a pro-life group. So if the FDA says no Planned Parenthood facility is licensed to do them. Well, it gets kind of unbelievable here. Vice President Joe Biden was in La Crosse, Wisconsin last Friday and indicated that Planned Parenthood, under law, cannot perform abortions. We're going to listen into what he had to say.
If anyone had a doubt about what's at stake in this election when it comes to women's rights and the Supreme Court, I'm sure they were settled last night. Congressman Ryan made it very clear that he and Governor Romney are prepared to impose their private views on everyone else. It was made clear last night that they don't believe in protecting a woman's access to health care. It was made very clear that they do not believe a woman has a right to control her own body. That's between she and her doctor. And now they say they're willing to make an exception in the case of rape and incest. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Ryan was a leader in the House and even blocked those exceptions. So, folks, and now these guys pledge that they're going to defund Planned Parenthood, which under law cannot perform any abortion.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Here is lifenews.com. In an interview with the Columbus Dispatch newspaper, presidential candidate Mitt Romney said once again that he wants the Supreme Court to overturn the infamous Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision that's paved the way for 55 million abortions. Also, lifenews.com reporting that liberal actress Rosanne Barr is upsetting people after she made a comment on Twitter claiming that Mitt Romney is pro-rape. Barr alleges that Romney and his running mate, Paul Ryan, are rape supporters because they oppose paying for abortions in cases of rape or incest. As a result, that makes them pro-rape. Well, in follow-up tweets, Barr explained her outlandish position further. She said both Romney and Ryan oppose paying for the abortions of our raped and forcibly impregnated female troops. She said that Romney no longer believes that his health care program should pay for the abortions of our raped, forcibly impregnated troops. Denying our raped and impregnated female troops the right to paid abortion is pro-rape culture, and anti-American. First Lady Michelle Obama, after speaking about the importance of contraception and that women can make their own decisions about our bodies, proclaimed to an Ohio crowd. Now, keep in mind, she just spoke about women should make their own decisions about their own bodies, and talking, of course, about the right to abortion. Then she goes on to say that every single child in this country is worthy. We want to give all our children opportunities worthy of their promise because all of our kids are worthy, Michelle Obama said. Every single child in this country is worthy. We want our children to have that sense of limitless possibility, the belief that here in America, the greatest country on the planet, there is always something better out there if you're willing to work for it. Our kids are worthy, that is, if we allow them to live. Planned Parenthood has already invested more than $5.7 million into campaign ads targeting Mitt Romney, reports LifeNews.com. But with polls showing him leading Barack Obama, the abortion business is sinking more money into new ads. Planned Parenthood Votes announced that it's spending over $500,000 on radio ads targeting Romney in the battleground states of Ohio and Virginia. It's adding another $250,000 behind the ads it's already running on television in the state of Colorado. By the way, Planned Parenthood marked its 96th birthday this week, and the one leading pro-life activist who's been a watchdog of the abortion business for decades estimated, though, that Planned Parenthood is having its 96th birthday. They have denied 6 million unborn children birthdays of their own. Think about that. In 2010, Planned Parenthood did 27% of all the abortions in the United States. It's ended the lives of over 6 million human beings in its own facility since 1970. And during that same time, it collected over $6 billion in taxpayer money, says Jim Sedlak of American Life League. Sedlak says Planned Parenthood has a history of preying on black Americans. He's saying Planned Parenthood does not make public the race of its abortion clients anymore, but in the 1990s, it revealed that 43% of its abortions were on blacks and other minorities, who only made up 22% of the population. Today, looking at the most recent figures from Planned Parenthood, it did over 329,000 abortions in 2010, while it provided prenatal care to only 31,000 women. That's 10% of those that they did abortions on, and then only referred 841 women to adoption agencies. 841 to adoption, 329,445 to be killed. Disturbing news that came through Fox 6 News in Milwaukee and report on WND that a school bus driver in Wisconsin who had a spotless record has been fired from her job after allegedly telling a 12-year-old boy that he should have been aborted because he supports Mitt Romney for president. The victim of the comments was Joey Hartlaub, a 7th grader in New Berlin, whose family had posted a Romney-Ryan sign in their front yard. Fox 6 in Milwaukee reports that the boy had been harassed for weeks, but was called to the front of the bus recently when he and others were chanting, "Romney, Romney," from the back of the bus. "She kind of yelled at us and told me to come up front," this child told the station. "I said that Obama's pro-abortion." And the driver said, "Well, then maybe your mother should have chosen abortion for you." Well, Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City, said the Obama administration was trying to run out the clock on the investigation and disclosure about the terrorist attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya, until after the election is over in early November, adding that they're trying to cover up the scandal as much as possible. In the months leading up to September 11th terrorist attack on the U.S. consulate in Libya, the U.S. Embassy was seeking to hire 2 bodyguards with limited English language skills and salaries of about $13,000 a year. Job descriptions for these had posted online to the State Department would give preference in filling them to qualified U.S. citizens who were family members of U.S. government employees. The job descriptions explicitly stated that this included the same-sex domestic partners of U.S. government employees. The atheist group, Secular Coalition for America, have released their 2012 presidential candidate scorecard for the general election. It's a guide for secular-minded Americans on the presidential candidates in the upcoming election. Candidates from the 2 major parties, as well as significant third-party candidates, were included and received the following grades. This is from the atheist group. The Libertarian Gary Johnson was given a B, Barack Obama, Democrat, C, Mitt Romney, Republican, F, and Jill Stein for the Green Party, incomplete. Other news going on here that we'll get to. I see we're just seconds from a break, so we'll hold off until after the break comes about. But some billboards are going up in a couple states warning about voting fraud and the reaction that's coming to those signs. And also we're going to be hearing from Michelle Obama that we are in the midst of a huge recovery. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, creation author and president of the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, can a person be an evolutionist and a Christian at the same time?
They certainly can, Chris. Most people, when they come to Christ for salvation, they come as evolutionists. But once a person gets to know the God of the Bible, they quickly see that the concept of evolution is incompatible with the very character of God. How does God's grace and mercy and love compare with survival of the fittest? No, the God of the Bible would create just as it says back in Genesis. He created things in order and in balance, and then created man in his image. That plan of God has been delayed by the introduction of sin and death, but it's not been abandoned. We look forward to the consummation of all things, but it all started back in Genesis.
For more on creation, visit our website at www.icr.org. For the Institute for Creation Research, I'm Chris O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in.
Having a news roundup today here on Crosstalk. Much going on in the news, and we'll also give you opportunity to share your thoughts on some of the current events and happenings. But there are billboards that are going up against voter fraud. Primarily, they've been seen in Ohio and Wisconsin. With 3 weeks to go, these billboards reminding citizens that voter fraud is a crime. I've seen these in our community. The sign reads, voter fraud is a felony up to 3.5 years and $10,000 fine. Now, we are told that there's more than 100 a total of these boards in both Ohio and Wisconsin. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, an advocacy group based in Washington State, sent a letter to Clear Channel Outdoor in Parma, Ohio, asking the agency to remove the billboards. They wrote in their letter that the signs have begun to appear in predominantly African-American neighborhoods in Cincinnati and Milwaukee, and that they would stigmatize the black community. Phil Burris, the president of Citizens for Community Values in Ohio, said, quote, I find it appalling that a group would object to this regardless of where the billboards are. When you're simply stating a law, they need to grow up and realize that whoever did this and did us a public service, and we need to thank them for it. They're objecting to the billboards. It shows a judge's gavel on them, and it just says this: voter fraud is a felony, up to 3.5 years and a $10,000 fine. Well, First Lady Michelle Obama said in a radio interview that the United States is in the midst of a huge recovery because of what this president has done. Pablo Sato, co-host of Pablo and Free on WPGC in Washington, D.C., it's a hip-hop radio station, asked the First Lady, Mrs. Obama, you know what, in your words, tell us what you think the state of the union is right now. Mrs. Obama said, quote, I mean, we are seeing right now that we are in the midst of a huge recovery, right because of what this president has done. Pulled this economy from the brink of collapse when we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. Now we're gaining throughout most of his presidency. We've been adding jobs to this economy because of what he's been doing. The stock market has doubled. Housing prices are rising. Foreclosure rates are lowering. But in the face of that, you still have people trying to convince us that things aren't better. Well, Republican Representative Darrell Issa has threatened to subpoena the Department of Health and Human Services if it does not turn over documents by Thursday, today, on a program that he claims is being used to buy the election by hiding the effects of Obamacare. Issa is the chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, made his demands in a letter late yesterday to Health Secretary Kathleen Sebelius. His office effectively is accusing the department of stringing them along in their months-old request for documentation about an $8 billion program that pays bonuses to Medicare Advantage plans. This is being reported in Fox News. Your staff has run out of excuses, and the long delay is providing these documents is inexcusable, Issa wrote. Issa claims the bonus program is being used to mask the first round of Medicare Advantage cuts in connection with the health care overhaul in order to win favor with seniors. He said in a recent letter that the only plausible explanation for the program is that it's being used as a temporary bandage to cover up cuts, realizing the political danger of those cuts in an election year. Well, it's being reported all over regarding that in light of the Obamacare, that restaurant companies and franchises are looking into ways to lower their cost and cutting employee hours. What we're seeing here is that this healthcare law puts unique challenges on chain restaurants, said Rob Green, executive director of the National Council on Chain Restaurants. He said the law will cause cost implications on a lot of different business sectors, but restaurants and retail are in the bullseye. Specifically, two parts of the healthcare law may raise costs for restaurant chains. The definition of full-time employees as those who work 30 or more hours per week rather than the traditional 37 to 40 hours a week. And the fact that the law applies to any business with more than 50 employees, a number some say will discourage franchise growth. The Orlando-based Darden Restaurants, which operates more than 2,000 restaurants under the Olive Garden, Red Lobster, Longhorn Steakhouse, and other brand, is currently testing limiting some employees to 29.5-hour work weeks in some of their markets. Darden's test is, in fact, a test that shows that restaurant companies are attempting to prepare themselves for added health care cost. Folks, we're talking about the fallout of Obamacare, where we have businesses that will cut employees' hours so that they are not thought to be full-time, to put them below 30 hours per week so that they don't have to be included under Obamacare. Jimmy Johns, Chief Executive Officer, spoke Monday on Your World with Cavuto on the Fox News channel about possible ramifications of the health care law. And during the interview said his company would be forced to cut employee hours as a result of the health care law. However, Jimmy John's has not yet reduced hours or raised their prices as a result. That will be, no doubt, forthcoming. LifeNews.com is reporting that the central planners, now we talk about nationalized health care. Well, let's go abroad and see what's happening in the United Kingdom. This headline caught my attention. United Kingdom doctors told to make a death list of patients to ration care. The central planners at the NHS want GPs to make a list of patients likely to die so they can receive differing care. GPs have been asked to select 1 in every 100 of their patients to go on a list of those likely to die over the next 12 months. Likely to die over the next 12 months. The patients will be singled out for end-of-life care, potentially saving the NHS more than £1 billion a year. That's the UK money. I'm not talking about weight. The list of patients may be asked to say where they would prefer to die and should be told they can draw up a living will by which they can instruct doctors to withdraw life-saving treatment if they become incapacitated in hospital. Information for GPs on what happens to such patients said they would be less likely to be subject to treatments of limited clinical value. It added that a quarter of all hospital beds are occupied by dying people and said that 4 in 10 have no medical need to be there. If each had one less emergency admission into the hospital in the last weeks and months, it would save £1.35 billion a year, the material said. Folks, I want you to note the focus is on money and denying patients fully informed choices, where doctors have to make that selection, 1 in every 100 of their patients to go on a list of those likely to die over the next 12 months. It's interesting to observe. The Hill is reporting that Democrats who are running for Senate in red states have deployed various tactics to fend off the biggest threat to their campaigns, the unpopularity of President Obama at home. Democrats with the toughest races have been the most vocal in criticizing Mr. Obama, who has seen his poll ratings slump since squaring off against Mitt Romney in the first debate. Some are following a strategy that's being adopted by Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who's cruising to a victory himself. Now, he's Democrat, but he's in a state where Obama is trailing Romney by as many as 21 points. Manchin established independence among voters by forcefully criticizing the president, sometimes verging on bashing him, says the article. Former Senator Bob Kerrey of Nebraska is facing an uphill battle to win his old Senate seat in Nebraska, has slammed the president for releasing details about the classified mission to kill Osama bin Laden. Kerry has said he has significant disagreements with the president. Kerry recently changed his stance on cap and trade, one of the biggest legislative priorities of Obama's first term, and now opposes it. In Indiana, Joe Donnelly, who is in a dead heat race against Richard Murdoch, recently called out Obama for slow-walking approval of the Keystone Pipeline. He said, I think the president's wrong. He's another Democrat there. And in state after state, Democratic Senate hopefuls in red states are wrestling with the threat of their own continuation in office because of Mr. Obama. CNSNews.com reporting that the federal government in 2011 directly deposited $5,262 in improper welfare payments into the bank account of a foreign-born U.S. citizen who's living in Hanoi, Vietnam, and who withdrew the money via an ATM machine. The improper supplemental security income, SSI benefits, were discovered when the Inspector General of the Social Security Administration audited a sample of 250 SSI recipients who were foreign-born citizens. The new audit was a follow-up to a study that they did from some years back. Under federal law, if an SSI recipient lives outside the U.S. for more than 30 days at a time they became ineligible, and they become ineligible, that is, for SSI benefits. But here they found taking $5,262 in improper welfare benefits using ATM in Vietnam. The Department of Homeland Security's 2011 Yearbook of Immigration Statistics was released last month, including figures that show that the number of illegal aliens apprehended in the United States was the lowest in 40 years. The report shows that in fiscal year 2011, the number of illegal aliens apprehended was 641,633 at that time, the lowest total apprehensions since 1972, when there were just 505,000 apprehended. The report shows that the number of illegal aliens apprehended has steadily decreased over the course of the Obama administration from a high of 869,000 some in 2009 to 641,000 in 2011. It's amazing to see what is going on. The Environmental Protection Agency is celebrating Child Health Month and is encouraging the recruiting of students to become energy patrols in their schools. This is they have a 26-page report that's called Sensible Steps to Healthier School Environment, and they are helping schools to become more energy efficient and encouraging the creation of energy patrols of students. Like in Arizona, for example, they provide these energy patrols where they emphasize social action through environmental education, giving students a chance to do something about environmental problems instead of just hearing about them. 10 to 20 students tasked with monitoring the school's energy use. Okay, well, here's another student story. This one came from Fox News. Some California schools are banning the popular snack Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Several Pasadena, California schools have banned Flamin' Hot Cheetos from their schools. KTLA is reporting. School officials said the snack doesn't have enough nutritional value. Each bag has about 26 grams of fat and 1/4 the daily recommended sodium intake. Older students at Pasadena Unified High School have already been depleted of their choices of candy and junk food. But now Andrew Jackson Elementary School in Pasadena said that any student who brings the snack to school will have the item confiscated. Dangerous. Oh, Solyndra, take two. Two senior Republican senators called on the Department of Energy to explain whether the bankruptcy filing Tuesday by an electric car battery maker, the A123 Systems, Inc., which was awarded nearly $250 million, that's $250 million in government stimulus grants, will result in taxpayer losses. Senators Chuck Grassley of Iowa, ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and John Thune of South Dakota pressed the Energy Department for answers in a letter Tuesday. The bankruptcy raises a prospect that taxpayers will get little or no return on their investment in A123 and will lose millions of dollars, they said. The administration needs to answer for this, they said. The taxpayers shouldn't have to subsidize poor investments in failed energy companies. Let's take a break, folks, and let's also open the phone lines. Our number here to Crosstalk, if you'd like to comment on these stories or some of the other things going on in the news, maybe you want to get something off your chest regarding the debate the other night. Our number here at Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. That's 800-733-9829. And when we come back, I want to share a story with you that said, if Mary, Virgin Mary, had aborted, we wouldn't be going through the nonsense we're going through today. That's right. We'll be right back.
Most people devote much time researching and investigating important issues before making a decision or reaching a conclusion. Yet when faced with the most important issue of their earthly life, where will I spend eternity, they appear to be unconcerned or disinterested. Since God does not promise anyone tomorrow, and man's eternal destiny is sealed at death, would it not be wise to investigate these things? That's the purpose of the book Preparing for Eternity, in which author Mike Gendron contrasts the truth of God's Word with the teachings and traditions he was taught for over 30 years in the Roman Catholic Church. He found that eternal life is not merited by good works, but is given freely by God's grace to those who put their faith and trust in the Lord Jesus Christ as their all-sufficient Savior. The book, Preparing for Eternity, is available for a donation of $17 or more to VCY America by calling 1-800-729-9829. That's 1-800-729-9829.
You're listening to Crosstalk here on VCY America. LifeSiteNews.com reporting that a Quebec pro-life conference interrupted last weekend when about a dozen pro-abortion protesters stormed the evangelical church in which it was held and began chanting blasphemous slogans in front of the barricaded doors of the conference hall. Police had to bring in reinforcements to remove the protesters. They stormed the stairwell leading to the conference hall, but were stopped short by the conference doors that had been barricaded. Behind the barricaded doors, conference attendees heard the protesters chanting the equivalent in French of "It's my body, my choice." They also heard a chanted French pro-abortion sing-song against the Virgin Mary, saying, "Oh, if Mary had known about abortion, we wouldn't have to deal with all this nonsense." HBO real-time host Bill Maher says that he's consistently pro-death and not one of those people who thinks all life is precious. Even dogs can create life, he said in an October 7th interview on satellite radio. CNSNews.com says, I quoted him as saying, "I am for the death penalty, although I do believe in more DNA testing." Maher continued, he said, "My motto is, let's kill the right people. I'm pro-choice. I'm for assisted suicide. I'm for regular suicide. I'm for whatever gets the freeway moving. That's what I'm for. It's too crowded, so the planet is too crowded, and we need to promote death," says Bill Maher. The federal government, CNSNews.com, spent $27 million teaching Moroccans how to make pottery, a project that yielded less than stellar results, according to Senator Tom Colburn's recently released Wastebook 2012. Some pottery students showed up to just to get the free lunches, and one pottery class reported just 10 regular students. The Oklahoma Republican's annual catalog of frivolous government spending says a pottery program began in 2009 as part of an attempt to improve the economic competitiveness of Morocco. Coburn sent in a review by the Inspector General for the U.S. Agency for International Development, which oversaw the program, found that the project was, quote, not on track to achieve the goals. Wow. Oh, just got to share this with you as well. Attorney General Eric Holder Tuesday held a media event to observe October as Disability Employment Awareness Month. And reporters wishing to cover the event were required to present a government-issued photo ID. Okay, let's get to the phone lines here today on Crosstalk. Our number, 800-733-9829. We're going to begin in, Milwaukee. Roberto, you're on the air.
Hi, how you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. I'm calling to let everybody know. This is Mitt Romney. We're having another person, Mitt Romney, trying to fight against Obama. I think Obama, like Dr. Martin Luther King says, we have a dream. We need to go ahead and fulfill that dream. You know, Dr. Martin Luther King made it happen. Okay? Who says that Obama can't do it? Obama, he's already done so good so far.
What is the dream, Roberto?
What was that?
What is the dream?
What is the dream?
Yeah.
Is to have everybody has equal rights to live. Everybody has equal rights to eat.
Okay, let's just stop with your first statement. Everybody has equal rights to live, yet we're seeing Mr. Obama be an avid supporter of killing babies in the womb.
Well, that's fine. I mean...
That's fine? I totally disagree with that, Roberto. It is not fine to kill innocent life in the womb. We have killed nearly, 54 million little babies, helpless little babies, and you say that's fine?
I say that it depends on the situation.
Oh,
if
my...
He gets raped...
If it depends on the situation, and what crime? Roberto, what crime?
Baby shouldn't be in there. I mean, I know it's not the baby's fault.
Yeah.
But these men out here are disgusting. All Obama's trying to do is make everyone safe.
I tell you, the most dangerous place to be is in the womb of a mother here today under this plan.
Raped by, I understand that's their children, but everybody has a right. Everybody has a right.
What about the child's right?
What was that?
What about the child's right?
The child's right? Well,
yeah.
The child has nothing to do with the situation between.
We're talking about the life of a child here, Roberto. You say the child has nothing to do with it, nothing to say about this?
It's the mother's decision. If a mother says that she doesn't want that child, then she should have the right.
What about if after that child is born, Roberto?
If the child is what?
is born.
If the child's born...
What if the mother doesn't want the child then?
Well, if the child's born, I believe that you should keep that child.
Why is that?
I mean,
why is that, Roberto? What if the mother doesn't want to do it? Maybe that child was a product of rape. Why should she be forced to keep that child? Why should she not be able to kill it then?
Well, exactly.
Good. Thank you for calling. Diane in Kenosha, you're on the air.
Oh, he's still talking.
Diane in Kenosha, you're on the air.
Yes, hello. I listen carefully to programs, and I try to read and try to keep up, and I watch the debate. And I've heard Romney's plan over and over, but I still haven't figured out what Obama's plan is. They keep saying he has a plan. What is his plan? I haven't figured it out.
I guess we've been observing it over the past 4 years.
I know, but what is his plan for the next 4 years? I haven't figured that out at all.
Diane, we'll see if somebody can help you out with their call. Thank you so much. Harry in Port Huron, Michigan, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Jim. I just want to bring up the possible choice for maybe a guest. You know what's going on with the good things out there at 40 Days for Life, what they're doing?
Yes, I'm familiar with it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you thought about getting them on? It sure would be nice to hear the great things that they're doing. They're having a real positive impact out there.
Thank you, Harry, for your call. Yeah, we are regularly a pro-life voice on the air, standing up for the unborn. Thank you so much. Sean in Tennessee, you're on the air.
You know, I just have to call. I know everybody's talking about the debates. I just hope it's okay that I can slightly go off topic a slight bit. But I just feel like there's this, I don't know if you feel the same way I do, but there's just something that feels like in the air, all this psychological intimidation and intolerance of all of us, especially Christians, who are somehow forced, like I feel, to somehow just tolerate everything, but yet they can act any way they want to and not tolerating us. And it's like I'm told that, you know, I win more souls to Christ with love than I do with judgment. But what they don't understand, it seems to me, that my question simply is this. If that's so, why did they crucify and kill Christ? Did Christ not teach about hell? I mean, he called the false leaders hypocrites, right, and vipers.
Yeah.
You know, but we're supposed to be somehow intimidated into a corner all the time and said that, you know, even the slightest thing they go to an extreme about, such as, I guess, the example of how I'm allegedly imposing my religious beliefs on people just because I want to show them the truth and that's revealed plainly in Scripture. I'm accused of beating someone over the head with that.
Yeah, and I
think it's ridiculous.
I agree. Thank you, Sean, for the call. I can't tell you how many times we have conducted a program and disagreed with a policy here by this person or a policy there by that person, or spoken about what some congressman is, and to be called bigots and racist and hateful and hate mongering. It is just unbelievable that those who cry intolerance the loudest practice it the most. To Pennsylvania, Patrick, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. I just kind of wanted to respond to that gentleman called earlier. I had a couple questions, actually, but the one about abortion, you know, God said he knew us before he knows us even before we were born.
Yes.
He knows the hairs on our, and all that. So, and basically, best way to solve any problem is go to the King James Bible, and if biblically, if it's right or wrong, I guess that's the best way to defend it. But my other question is like the thing with Obama and the fuel going up when it doubled from Bush to now, and he was okay with that. But I'm an over-the-road truck driver, but all they did with that $2 a gallon was just pass that back on to us consumers, and it's in the grocery stores and all the moms out there and everybody shops and buys food. That just shows that back. It's not just about fuel.
Right.
You know, and the cars and stuff. He's got his head someplace else because, you know, diesel fuel went from $2-something again up to $4 a gallon, and you know, for diesel fuel. And hey, they just took that, just passed, and said, well, you got to keep going, got to keep hauling the stuff, the products, the food, and everything else up and down the road. And that just got passed on to the consumer.
Thank you.
And you guys know from 2 years ago, the price of, I've noticed it, my son-in-law even owns a major supermarket store.
Yeah.
And he said basically the food it sells and the items are the main ones, you know, and he's noticed where the good sweets and the little goodies in the stores, they don't sell. It's even hit the, that's basically all I had to say, but Enjoy your program, and thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Drive carefully there. Marcia in Evansville, Indiana, you're on the air.
I'm traveling, so I'm just going to ask a question, and then I'll turn off my phone and listen on the radio. I was just curious. I read on the internet about the Billy Graham Association taking Mormonism off their list of cults, and just curious what your thought was on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Appreciate that. I can't speak for their organization, but as you have listened, or those who have listened to this program have known that we have dealt with Mormonism. We certainly do not condone the beliefs of Mormonism, and do not find it to be biblical doctrines. And so I can't speak for their organization and what they did, but I do not find the beliefs to be consistent with what the Bible teaches us. Timothy in Waukesha, you're on the air.
Oh, yeah. The church needs to turn out for this election. Listening to these headlines, I mean, the path that we've taken the last 4 years is just frightening. And it's night and day difference in these candidates. And the church really should have no problem uniting on one side. One's for life, one's for death. One's for sending jobs away. I'm okay with the status quo. One's for creating jobs. One's for preserving liberty. One's for taking away liberty. I mean, it goes on and on. I think that there needs to be a great turnout by the church. There's no reason why we can't unite behind a pro-life candidate.
Thank you for your thoughts here, Timothy. I do know that there are a number of groups that have, such as Liberty Council Action, that have actually put out forth a voter's guide where you can examine many, many different issues as to the platforms of the parties, and where you can see from issues on abortion to First Amendment-related issues to immigration to fiscal reform, gun rights, and it goes several pages here. Israel as an ally, government oversight. Liberty Council has put that together to show that there is a contrast between the candidates for the United States presidency, and no doubt will be helpful to a number of people. Let's go next to Beth in West Allis, Wisconsin. You're on the air, Beth.
Yes, Jim, I want to address the caller earlier before when he said everybody had the right to live, and then he chose to tell us which ones he felt had the right to live. But, I want to put this argument to rest once and for all. They always talk about the baby in the womb as whether it's a viable tissue or not a viable tissue. Well, if you give birth to a child full-term, healthy, and you take that child and put it on a table and walk away and leave it there, eventually that child will die.
That's
so
right.
Whether it's in the womb or out of the womb, it is a child, and it needs to be taken care of. So you can't just give birth at full term and then say it's viable tissue. No, it's not, according to their parameters, because you have to still take care of it.
Right.
Otherwise it will die. And the other thing I just want to address, too, I know this is such a hot subject with who should we vote for. But I look at it this way, God gives us
Beth, just hold that thought,
Sure.
okay? Because let's take the break, and I'll come right back to you, okay?
Sure.
Hold the line, please. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. We'll be right back.
For the Worldview Weekend Minute, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewweekend.com. When you call out publicly false teachers and false teaching, perhaps you have been told you're wrong in doing so. And the scripture that is cited is Matthew 18, that you're to go to them privately in person. Well, there's a problem. That is not using that scripture in context. Matthew 18 deals with church discipline. Matthew 18 deals with a private sin issue, not public false teaching. We see in 2 Timothy, Paul calls out publicly those who are teaching that which is not right, that which is not biblical. We are not to use Matthew 18 to silence those trying to correct public false teaching. After all, how do you privately correct public false teaching? You can't. You must publicly correct public false teaching. And that's why when someone uses Matthew 18 to you out of context, explain to them lovingly that is a private sin issue that deals with church discipline, not exposing false teachers.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America. By the way, a nonpartisan website that you can look at, find out who the candidates are. Votesmart.org. Votesmart.org. They have a section on that main page there called Vote Easy. And there's a number of issues that you can put in. It'll ask you, what is your stand on abortion? What is your stand on the environment, on gun issues? And it gives you multiple issues. You put in your responses, and the candidate emerges that best reflects your position, and certainly worth looking at to consider. Again, it's nonpartisan, doesn't tell you who to vote for, but helps you to vote your values and to see who lines up with your values in that regard. That's votesmart.org, and then click on Vote Easy, and not only for the presidency, but also for congressional races as well. Well, we're speaking with Beth right now in West Dallas, holding over from the break. And Beth, you had something to say here pertaining to the election as well.
Yes, well, God gives us much or He gives us little. Right now He's given us little, and I'm surprised He's given us anything at all, to be quite honest. But my perspective is this. I'm going to vote for the person who might save one child rather than kill as many as he can. And that's what I vote for, because of the thing, we don't have a Christian leader. This is not a Christian position. We have been given the choices by God. These are the people that we have. So now you have to go and you have to pick the one that best suits, your Christian, faith. And for me, if one baby saved is better than no baby saved or more babies dead.
Thank you, Beth, for your thoughts today. Anthony, you're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call. You were saying that it seems like a lot of Democrats are leaving the Obama ship, and they're all talking against him and everything.
Yeah, right. These are candidates running for Congress or Senate they're distancing. They're in red states, but are distancing themselves from the policies of the president.
Well, in my opinion, I think that I hope and pray that we vote the right people in so we can get most of those Democrats out of there and we can have Republicans that will vote honestly. Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing your views today. To Marianne, you're next. Go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. Couple things. One is I want to address the fact that Joe Biden lied during the debate with Paul Ryan. When he said that no senior would lose their Medicare Advantage. Well, as God would have it, and I have to thank Him for answering my prayer to reveal the hidden things, I already have received my Medicare book for next year and my Humana Advantage book, and lo and behold, my premium's gone way up, and my benefit for seeing my doctor after my first visit shows that I have to pay 50% of my bill, which could amount to hundreds of dollars. So I don't know what Joe Biden was referring. Maybe he was referring to the 50% of the Medicare Advantage that they're still going to let us have.
Thank you for
the item I wanted to address was the idea of people that are not going to vote. Here's what the Lord convicted me of, since I've been listening to some people on this program and others. As born-again Christians, the Lord tells us in the Scripture that we are to fight the good fight till the end. That means that we have to do our duty as citizens and realize how much He has blessed us with this freedom to vote. There are many other people in the world who don't have that freedom. And even if we don't like either party or the candidates, we still have an obligation before God to fight the good fight and to exercise our voting, not only privilege, but our obligation before God.
Thank you, Marianne, for sharing your thoughts. To Brookfield, Dan, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Jim. Thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
On the heels of that lady, I believe it is definitely irresponsible for a Christian not to vote. We're not only citizens of heaven, but we have a civic duty and responsibility to vote for the best candidate. That being said, Mr. Obama is not only practicing Marxist policies, but he is killing innocent life on the heels also of what you were talking about previously. I find it rather sad that you can, under his current policies, you can partially abort a baby 2 seconds before the baby is born and literally destroy the cranial content of the baby, destroy his brain and central nervous system. Whereas if the baby was born 2 seconds later and you decapitated that baby, you would be charged with murder.
Yeah.
Now, why is that? Why is it that there have been many cases across the country where fetuses at the full-term level who were murdered and the mother murdered, the perpetrator was charged with double homicides?
Yeah.
There's a lot of fuzzy thinking amongst people as to the fetus not being a human being. So why don't we just call it murder and not dance around this? Not you, but some of these other callers are very confused about the true nature of this tremendous social tragedy. And I really hope that people thinking get straight before the election and that they choose the better candidate, which is not Barack Obama.
Thank you for your thoughts today, Dan. To Mark in Kansas, you're on the air.
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
The Bible is the true Word of God, but it also employs what's called the principle of the greater good. And especially in the Old Testament, we see that Pharaoh told the Hebrew midwives to kill the males, the male children, and they didn't, and they lied to him. And they communicated a principle of the greater good. Even though it was a lie, they saved the lives of the children. It said they were in essence treated good by God. Rahab was had the king of Jericho tell her that she was to turn over the spies, and they would be destroyed. The Jewish spies. She lied. And she hid them. And she lied to the king and employed, in fact, the principle of the greater good.
Yeah, and so I don't think, Mark, that she was commended for her lie. She was commended for hiding the spies.
Okay. And I'm not saying that lying is good.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm saying there is I'm not trying to endorse the fact that lying's good. I think I'm trying to endorse the fact that biblically there is a principle of the greater good.
Mark, I appreciate your call, and that theme music tells me we're out of time here on the broadcast today. Folks, all the more reason we need to be in prayer and prayer daily for this nation, be praying for this election. Asking for God's mercy upon our nation, asking for God to grant wisdom to each individual exactly how they should cast their vote. Thanks for joining us today on Crosstalk.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Take Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.